Humans are weird, a little punchy.
Yes, sir.
Human friend Drevin said grimly into his communications unit.
Of course, sir.
Seventh Flap paused in his flight to listen to the conversation. The human on the other peak of the wave was simply giving a series of orders in a calm voice, but human friend Drevin seemed to be growing increasingly more agitated. His furless skin was flushing as the blood rushed to the surface and his body began to radiate heat into the chill air of the base. Enough heat that Seventh Flap was tempted to forego propriety and snuggle up against the back of the human's neck, but he restrained himself and waited for the human to finish his call.
Goodbye.
Human friend Drevin finally concluded in a tight voice. He dropped his arm to his side and spun away to march toward the door. Seventh Flap thought about calling out to get his attention, but shouting in the human hearing range was difficult, and if he circled around, Seventh Flap could catch human friend Drevin's eye just as he came into full sunlight. Then he could get permission to land right on the human's collar and get both the warmth from the local star and the local large mammal. He prepared to swing around between the human's head and the door frame, but stopped suddenly as the human gave a low snarl and swung his fists forward in an almost painfully slow arc. Seventh Flap gave a pip of panic and darted forward in an attempt to stop the vector. He logically knew he could never hope to redirect even the mass of the human's hand, let alone the applied force of the muscles, but he acted on instinct. He did manage to reach the hand before it struck the wall, and latched his wing hooks into the soft flesh on either side of the bony framework. A moment later, however, the fists impacted against the wall, and human friend Drevin gave a small grunt.
What the?
Human friend Drevin barked out, jerking his hand back. Seventh Flap clung trembling to his hand, his sensory horns ringing from the force of the blow that had transferred backwards through the human's hand. When he reoriented, he realized that human friend Drevin was holding the hand that had struck the wall against his chest. The human's other hand was cupped under Seventh Flap's perch as a safety net. Human friend Drevin was speaking to him in a soothing tone. Seventh Flap shook out his head and instead of dropping to the offered hand, quickly scrambled up and peered down at the human's knuckles. He winced at the damage he saw, but breathed easier when he noted that the blood was only seeping out from the skin and not surging as he expected from the force of the blow. Human friend Drevin was getting more insistent in his demand for Seventh Flap's attention.
What was that about?
Seventh Flap demanded. He whipped around and gave the human his best glare. It still amazed him that his comparatively tiny mass could intimidate the massive predatory species, but apparently when a wing glared, they resembled some human nightmare or the other. It certainly caused human friend Drevin to stop talking and jerk his head back a few inches.
What was that about?
Seventh Flap demanded again. Human friend Drevin glanced between his knuckles and the wall and then shrugged.
I was frustrated,
he said. Seventh Flap stared up at him, trying to make some sense out of that.
So you punched the wall,
he said.
You punched the plasticrete wall with your primary gripping appendage with enough force to damage it.
Oh no,
human friend Drevin said, his face brightening up.
The wall's fine.
Seventh Flap seriously thought about biting the human in that moment, but he settled for reinforcing his grip on the flesh of his hand.
Medical ward.
Seventh Flap snarled out.
What?
Human friend Drevin suddenly sounded concerned.
Are you hurt?
Seventh Flap stared down at the seeping blood and tried to fight down a sigh.
Take me to the medical ward.
Seventh Flap said as firmly as he could.
And on the way, tell me what the connection is between frustration and punching a wall.
Humans are weird. We took a vote, and humans are weird. I have the data. 2 books in a series of human absurdity. Go check out these short story collections. What will our little green friends think of us when we finally do make it to space? Find out the answer in 2 books of human absurdity. Humans Are Weird, We Took a Vote, and Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo and Google Play.